Hello guys, this is a quick video just showing you the prelims for setting up Traps ESM. Okay, so it's just going to run through a couple of different parts on it. The first part, you have to include IIS role on your server, whether it's server 2008, 2012, 2016, IIS must be enabled. The video is just meant as a demonstration, just how to do it. Obviously, if you are doing this in a production environment, it'd be worth attending the EDU 285 course, and indeed the EDU 281 course, which is the beginner course for Palo Alto Networks Traps. The video is just going to show you how to deploy the ESM server. Traps is now available on the cloud, known as the Traps Management Server. I'll show you how to do that after this couple of videos showing you how to set up as the endpoint ESM endpoint security manager. These is the other, you just have to double check the static compressions checkbox is enabled at the bottom there, which it is by default. And you also have to include all, if you just click application development, just up here a little bit. It's a lab environment I'm deploying this in, so it's just a bit clunky moving around. So you go ahead and just select the checkbox for application development, and that enables them all. This is important. Okay. Static content compressions enabled. Click install. That takes a couple of moments to install. The technical docs at paloaltonetworks.com, which I'll include link in the summary or the description of this video, is the first protocol really for any sort of technical documentation on this. Again, this video is purely meant as just a demonstration video, just to run through the steps. We'll deploy it using a certificate signed from an internal CA. We'll go through the steps in that in a couple of moments. But there's no comparison for attending the training course. The 285, like I said, covers all this in detail. It also includes some troubleshooting. So I'll just skip ahead there. That's what it looks like when it's installed. Obviously it's succeeded. Okay. Now, after you deploy the IIS services role, you can just verify that the World Wide Web services is running in services. Just to point out as well, this is a demonstration environment. It's a standalone environment. You can have distributed environments with the ESM, Endpoint Security Manager. If you want to have a ESM server in regional locations or anything like that, this is also possible. How we can verify that the IIS is just running is just check on the local host. See, is it up and running? Indeed it is. Get that type thing if it is. So we need to enable Windows Firewall to allow the communications to the ESM server. And the database that's going to be on it, namely TCP 1433. So we just create a rule like this on the Windows Firewall. You can, of course, disable Windows Firewall once you deploy the traps on it. Okay, so the first one, 1433, this is for the SQL database. SQL Express does work, running version 4.2, Traps 4.2. But a good few steps involved in deploying it, the ESM, compared to the Traps Management Server. There are some pros and cons over one over the other, but mostly the pros outweigh the cons going with the cloud version. Deployment time, troubleshooting, what can go wrong, and things things like that. The licensing, so it'll be work out much cheaper because you don't have to worry about SQL licenses, Microsoft licenses. There are no inbound firewall rules for your roaming agents. We'll talk about that in another video. But again, this is just a firewall rule allowing the connections into the database. And just in brackets, you know, potentially the SQL server may not be on the same device or server that we're deploying everything on. So this, we're just deploying everything on the one server, which is fine for kind of up to kind of 250 agents. Again, the technical documentation kind of and this deployment scenarios specifies that, and we can have a look through that there as well. This is the next port we need to allow in, very important port, 2125. This allows the agents to connect to the ESM server through what is the Windows Firewall. Again, if you disable Windows Firewall, you don't have to create these rules. Finish there. And that's the Windows Firewall sorted. Okay, next little prelim job I did was get the prep the SQL server. So there's a little small tweak we have to do with it. Again, just apologies, a bit clunky when you're trying to run everything into one little ESXi server. So we need to go into the SQL configuration manager, enable it if it's not enabled. We double click the TCP IP section, click the IP addresses. You're looking for the IP all at the end of that screen. You want to change the IP all dynamic ports to 1433. Apply and OK. You will have to restart, as the prompt says, you will have to restart that this SQL service. So you can just right click that SQL Server services, open, and just right click this and restart the service. Into the Microsoft SQL using 2014 on this one, which is fine. And just very quickly before I do that, if I go into the services, I have to do another small little tweak in here because the SQL Server and ESM server is going to be on the same server effectively. we need to just double click the SQL Server Express service, and we want to be able to grant a particular user login as a service rights on that. We're going to create a separate user for administration. Well, there is a separate user for administration and a separate user for the database. So while the administrator might change password frequently, the SQL database user may not change it as often, or indeed vice versa. So again, just a little bit clunky here with the lab. Sorry about this. Get onto it. Just take that there for a moment. Oh, sorry, double click this. You want to click the log on and find your database user, or the user that you're going to use as the Traps DB user. This guy needs to log on as a service, right? And with a lot of things there, so we've seen it with the SQL when we changed the ports. We've seen it when we changed the logon as a service. You have to restart the services. It's a good troubleshooting step if anything isn't working as expected as well. Just restart some of these services. IIS, SQL Server Express, two very important services. We'll see others as the install goes on. But if IIS and SQL Server is not happy, the rest of the install will not be happy. So that's it. We have a way just to verify that that user was granted the logon as a service. If we go to local security policy and just type in that in the search bar, take that. We want to just verify that that user has been granted the logon as a service right or permission. And we can see, if we double click the logon as a service, we can see our guy there, Traps DB user. So verified. Okay. Now we have to do a bit of work on the SQL Express itself. Namely, just add in the databases. So we're going to this, even though it's open. Click here. There's a bit of work to do here. Okay. There we see our current databases. And they're just pretty much the default from a fresh install, okay? If we go to our logins, we want to create a new login for the Traps DB user. Sometimes it's handy enough just to search. Type in whatever the guy's name is, or did they log on as a service user is going to be. Traps, check it. That guy. Okay. There's another little tweak then. So we have to add in another user for the logins for the administrator. Now I already have this guy in as an admin on it, so it chucks up a warning like we'll see here in a minute. Okay, that. So if the user's already in the login section, gives you that warning. Okay, so if you see that warning, the user's already there. Already exists clearly. So we can cancel off that. And then we can see what user is actually there, and we can see that the Traps admin and the Traps user is there. Now we need to create a database, Traps DB. Doesn't matter really what we call it. Now we added 2 rows there by accident, so I'll just remove them. Click OK. Now we've created the Traps database. We want to just there's the NT authority system, because everything is on the it's a weird username, and because everything is on the same system, we need to mark that as one of the database owners. So the NT authority / system, which is a default account on it, it needs to be marked as one of the owners of Traps DB owner. Simple as that. We need to do this for the Traps DB user and the Traps admin guy. Or sorry, just the Traps DB user. Let me see it here. Probably is. We can add it for the admin as well. User mappings, Traps DB owner. Okay. These are all the defaults. Happy enough with them. So this is the one of the interesting bits. The last bit we're going to cover in this video, and it's how to actually cut the cert or generate the cert. So this is installed as a certificate authority, and there's a couple of very important bits in this for Traps to work. If we are using an SSL cert, because we're using an internal CA, all the domain computers will automatically trust it. Just make sure you select a computer account here. But the recommendations is indeed to get it publicly signed, so all the users, you know, even if they're not part of the domain and they want to install Traps on their laptop maybe, that they can do. So just select computer account there, sorry, and click next. So yeah, you can get the cert signed by a public CA, or you can get it signed by your own internal CA. So I'm going to just create that now. Double click the certificates then. You don't have to use the cert to deploy Traps, an SSL cert. Of course, it is recommended. If you're not using the SSL cert, it's going to be potential there that it being clear text. So the recommendations is to use a certificate. Okay, so these are the domain root CAs on the domain. If we just right click anywhere, we can add in a new one. All tasks, request a new certificate. Okay, it's just very clunky. Next, very important bit here, and it's fundamental to Traps working. That the certificate, if we do decide to go with recommended option of using an SSL cert, either signed by your internal CA or by a public CA, part of the requirements that is outlined in the deployment scenarios and the software requirements and all the requirements for the ESM is coming up now in a moment. Just loading. Okay, so you want to select the computer, check the box beside computer, and just if we click the drop down, so key usage, digital signature, key encipherment, very important, client authentication and server authentication. If them two things aren't set, it's not going to work. So it needs all the client authentication and server authentication, for these certs to work. You just need to check that digital signature and the key thing is there as well. Okay, come up with a friendly name. This is a lab environment. I'm calling it ESM. Cert. Obviously, if this was a production environment, that would be resolvable. You would use a friendly name that's going to be resolvable to a particular IP, probably. The CN name will be. Apologies, friendly name can be anything. It's the actual. We'll see the domain that needs to be resolvable. This is done by internal CA. But if you're getting it publicly signed, whatever CN name you choose for the cert needs to be matching. Just a couple of warnings. That's great. So we have the cert is there. If we just maximize that window, you'll be able to see which one we chose as the friendly name. Now we want to export that, and again we had to check a box there to make the private key exportable, because we need to export the private key. So again, the lab guide for the 2A5 is probably one of the best guides you'll get for deploying traps. But the tech docs at paloaltonetworks.com wouldn't be too far behind. If not, it would be ahead, because it'd be more up to date, depending on when you attended the course. So muscle memory password there, just so you don't forget it, or just document it. Choose where you're saving the file. It has to be saved in that format, PFX. And you just save it in a location that we're going to easily find it. That's it. So we've prepped the SQL users, the databases, certs, IIS, and we're pretty much ready to start deploying the ESM's core and the ESM console. ESM server, sorry, and the ESM console. Okay, so yeah, that's going to be in the next video. Thanks for watching.